Welcome back. Today we're looking at a script called The Psychology of Christmas Eve Emotions. It argues that the unique feeling of that night is all about biology and psychology, not just tradition.
Right, a really strong central idea. The delivery is punchy, so we're going to jump straight to the high level stuff. How to make its argument even more powerful.
Okay, so let's start right after that fantastic hook. It goes, Christmas Eve feels different. That's not magic, that's psychology.
A hook that really sets the bar high. And I think right after that is where we see the first opportunity.
Yeah. The critique here is about integrating symbolism and scientific mechanisms to enhance flow.
Because it feels like once we get past that initial, really atmospheric part, it just becomes a list of facts. Exactly. That's the weakness. You get the melatonin release, then the warm lighting, then the music. And they're all presented as these sort of separate points.
Right. It segments the very experience that the script argues is a unified whole.
Precisely. And that connection between, say, the quieter air and the science behind it feels a little bit abrupt.
So the suggestion is to make that flow completely seamless.
Yes, use the elements that are already there in the text. The script mentions that glow, not shine, of the lights. Don't just state it, use it as the bridge.
Oh, I see. So you make the environment the direct trigger for the biology?
You make it the trigger. So instead of just listing things, you could frame it so that the warm lighting is what's actively lowering stress hormones.
So the narrative becomes, you see that warm light? That's what's allowing your body to settle, to quiet down.
Yes, and that quiet state is what lets those deeper, melatonin-fueled memories come to the surface. It's a sensory path that leads you right to the biological state.
The atmosphere becomes the catalyst.
It proves the point in the telling, not just in the listing. Now, you could argue that, listing things discreetly is clearer for the audience,
That's a fair point. You don't want to lose the scientific clarity.
but for a 3-minute script that's all about emotion and atmosphere, I think a little bit of clinical separation is worth sacrificing for that emotional flow.
I agree. You want the listener to feel the connection, not just understand it.
You want them to feel it happening at the same time. You could explicitly show how that warm glow and the quiet work together with nostalgia peaking at night. It reinforces that idea that tonight feels powerful because it's a synergy.
Okay, that sensory integration is key. But speaking of powerful feelings, the script brings up a really interesting counterintuitive idea.
The sadness?
Even sadness, yes, and it's a crucial assertion.
It's maybe the most important part of the whole argument. If you only explain the joy, you haven't proven the mechanism at all.
You've just described a nice evening.
Exactly. And that brings us to the second critique, expanding the emotional range to bolster the thesis robustness.
The weakness here is pretty clear, I think. The script spends all this time building up positive feelings, the warm lights, the nostalgia. And then sadness gets what? One line at the end?
It feels like an afterthought. And that imbalance really risks making the whole argument seem like it's just about positive holiday feelings.
When it's actually about a universal mechanism for all heightened emotions on that night.
Right, so the suggestion for improvement is to give that idea more space. You need to show how the exact same pressures, the high expectations, the amplified memory, can also intensify sadness.
That's what proves the thesis, that psychology controls the entire emotional spectrum.
It adds so much depth. So, for a concrete example, when the script talks about nostalgia peaking because of melatonin, you have to frame it as magnification.
Magnification is the perfect word.
Because when memories feel deeper, your brain isn't just cherry picking the happy ones.
Not at all. That same state can make memories of absence or loss feel incredibly sharp.
More profound. And you have to say that explicitly. That's what gives the argument its weight and balances out the warmth of the lights.
And you can bring in the social pressure too. The script mentions that everything is supposed to feel right.
That's the other crucial layer. Because the expectation is so high, any little thing that feels wrong,
Gets magnified.
it gets psychologically and neurologically magnified. If you're expecting a perfect 10 and the night is a 9, that 1-point gap can feel like a catastrophic failure.
Which leads directly to that intensified, even sadness.
It makes sadness an integral piece of evidence for the argument, not just a footnote. It shows the sheer power of the mechanism, for good or for bad.
This idea of heightened intensity. It connects directly to what I think is the most unique insight in the script.
The stretched time?
the feeling that time feels stretched. It's a fantastic observation, but it needs to be connected more directly to why Christmas Eve is the peak for all of this.
Yes, and that is our third critique, sharpening the significance of perceived time to establish uniqueness.
Because the obvious question is, why this night? Why isn't it just any quiet, dark night in winter?
That's the weakness. The material says time stretches, and it mentions music slowing your heart rate, but it doesn't build a clear causal link between the biology and that very specific perception on this specific night.
It needs to prove the eve is singular.
Exactly. That feeling of power the script talks about is tied directly to time slowing down before a big event. So the suggestion is to explicitly link the biological slowing with the psychology of anticipation.
Ah, so the anticipation is the missing ingredient. Time perception.
You frame the physical slowing as the prerequisite for the psychological experience. Your body is physically slowing down, which makes each moment feel a little deeper, a little longer.
It sets the stage, but a slow song can do that anytime. What's the final piece?
The final piece is the social pressure you mentioned earlier. You have to bring it back. It's the conscious act of waiting for Christmas Day.
The culmination of weeks of expectation.
And when you combine that intense, collective waiting with the biological slowdown, that's what creates the unique stretch time. It's the anticipation that makes this night different from all others.
So the mind is primed by the waiting, and the body's experience is then shaped to match it.
It creates the singularity. And that stretched time becomes this canvas where all those magnified emotions, the joy, the sadness, can be felt with this incredible intensity.
It shows the audience how their own brain is actively creating the magic they feel. It's brilliant.
So, to recap the three big areas.
First, it's about integrating the biology into the atmosphere. Don't list the facts, show them as a direct result of the sensory environment for a much smoother flow.
Second, really lean into the negative emotions. Use sadness not as an afterthought, but as core evidence that this psychological mechanism is powerful enough to control the whole emotional spectrum.
And finally, sharpen that incredible insight about stretched time. Directly link the biological slowing to the unique psychological pressure of anticipation to prove why Christmas Eve, and only Christmas Eve, feels this way.
Exactly. These changes will take what is already a really compelling script and turn it into a completely airtight and, I think, much more powerful argument. It moves from being a list of interesting facts to a holistic explanation of a shared experience.
If you take on these challenges and want to send in a revision, we would love to take another look. Submit your work back to the critique. Until next time.